Hey there everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Gabriel Visiontoon Lamette, and you've tuned in to your channel, Visiontoon Art World. Now, before we get into this tutorial, I want to ask that you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, as well as go ahead and click that bell icon so you can get all the notifications for when I've got brand new content. I've got a lot more cool stuff coming. Also, I'm proud to announce I actually have a store on Etsy, and so that store is called VT Party Art. It's one word, and you'll be able to get all that information. Actually, at the end of this tutorial, it has all my handle information for all the social media stuff that I'm involved in, but definitely go ahead and check out that store. If you've got a party coming soon, I've got illustrations that you can use to help decorate your party to make it Visiontoon style. So, now that all that is out of the way, let's get into the reason why you even clicked on this video, and that is because I am going to show you how to draw the cute and cuddly little guy himself, Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda stepped onto the scene with the first season of The Mandalorian. I love that show, and so I thought it would be an amazing and fun thing to be able to draw Baby Yoda. Even though now that I look at Baby Yoda more and more and more, he kind of reminds me if Gizmo had a baby with somehow the striped gremlin, and then they can... Anyway, so like I said, we're going to get into doing a little bit of the drawing for doing Baby Yoda. And so everybody go ahead, grab your pencil, grab your paper, because we're getting ready to get into this bad boy right now. Thank you for joining me. Alrighty, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and get into our illustration of Baby Yoda, the small but powerful green guy from our Mandalorian series. And so what we're gonna do is go ahead and start off with just easy sketch work to get this thing started, because I want to try and get all of the proportions correct, even within the ears, so that they fall within our illustration here and they won't get cut off, okay? So what I'm going to do is kind of establish where the shape of his head is going to come into place, because his head is kind of shaped like a bean a little bit. And again, as I have shared before, sketching is just really for the sake of framework. It doesn't have to be completely accurate. And so we'll do the same thing for the ear on each side. The ears kind of remind me of a bit of a leaf. And so I want the ears to be practically the same size, so I'm going to need to readjust his head a bit. Okay, so again, this is just the sketch work as far as setting the framing of how things will be. And I'm going to do the oval here. I have the leaf shape here, a leaf shape here, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a secondary bean type of thing if there was a bean sitting behind this one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's how we'll at least go ahead and start our base for this. Now, we're gonna go ahead and start with his eyes. Now, the beautiful thing about Baby Yoda's features is the fact that his eyes are so big and deep, and they're very, very rounded oval shape. So I'm gonna do one round oval there, and then give it a little bit of spacing here to maybe about there, and then the other oval circle style. All right, and the thing is, just so you realize, so with him having kind of the oval round shape there, then you get your little, literally a little button nose that comes in. Really cute little guy. And actually, let me go ahead and center that a lot better. Okay. And I'll give him a bridge there, just a little bit of a bridge, so I know exactly where he's going to be with his nose. So that's his little nose there. And then I'm just going to give him a little itty bitty mouth going across here. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and look to establish actually how his eyes will completely form. So now that I have this portion of information, as far as where things are going to lie visually, I have the information, that is. Go ahead and establish the shadows a lot more of his eyes and the shape. And then his eyes are really big inside of here. They take up practically his whole entire eye. A normal person's eyes, they don't really look like that. But again, this is the Star Wars universe as it is. And so creatures can be however they are designed to be. Okay. So we've got that. Then a little bit more of his eye detail. That comes into there. This will come into here. Actually, it should be a little bit wider. And again, this is still technically our sketch work, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So please remember that, because we haven't even gone in with our actual soft leads and stuff that give you a lot more depth and detail. Alright, then from there is where you'll establish where his eyelid area will be. So the eyelid comes down to here. Eyelid, same here. Alright, and then the way he goes, he actually has a little bit of brow expression there. Right now he looks mad, like somebody did something wrong, but this will all make sense in a bit. And so I'm going to go ahead and give him just a little bit of detail there. The middle line of his forehead, and then another line there that kind of goes down to his brow a bit. And we're going to be softening all this stuff a little bit later, so you'll see how that kind of comes together. Then I'm going to give a little bit of a line of definition here going up to the brow, then another one going down here to where his actual nose is, and then the shape of his nose. Alright, then from there I'm going to do the bottom portion of his eye definition, and then do the same for this side here. Okay, and then cheek definition leading to where his mouth is going to be. And then here we go with his actual mouth, and have it go here. Just put a little bit of a darkening triangle on each side a little bit. And then he always has those lines that kind of come into here. And a little bit more definition to the bottom portion here. And then he has his, even though he's cute and everything, he kind of has like the old man chin. So it kind of all falls together a little bit down here where the bottom of his jaw would end up being. And then we'll establish the same thing here with more on this side. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and establish the lines of his head, where he's gonna have a little bit of hair sprouting out once he's done. So it kind of comes up as a line, humps in, then flares back out. And he's got a few rows of this. So that's where you'll establish another one that kind of follows the same suit. Another that follows the same suit. And then he's got a top one that follows the exact same type of style to it. Now we'll go ahead and come down and start to establish where his ears are going to actually lie. And they fold over rather deep. So I'm going to establish the outer part of the ear first. Give him a little bit of the definition on the side of his eye. And then the portion of the inner part of the ear, but because there is a fold here, I'm going to establish more detailed lines on the inside of that. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side of this. So establishing the outside portion of the ear, bringing this on in, giving it a little bit more detail to the inside, and then establishing the inside portion of the ear again. Give myself a little bit more lead. All right. Okay, then from here I'm gonna, and again, this is all sketch work, so you might be looking at this saying, man, that doesn't look like Baby Yoda. That looks like an old, cracked out cousin version of Yoda as an old guy. But once this is all said and done, you'll see where all this comes together, because again, this is just all sketch work here. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of work on his clothing a little bit, so we at least have that established for our artwork piece. So we're going to work with the shape of the first ruffle of his collar. Lead is meant to be broken, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect or have to exactly follow the exact same suit as the way I'm doing it, but you're going to want to just make sure that as you're developing this, you layer it. So I'm starting the definition point of where the first inner layer of his actual collar will be, but then I'm going to establish another for the big part of it, because as you know, he has several layers and ruffles to his actual collar. So bring this on around, let it come to this part, let this flare out just a little bit more, as you can see there. Then establish the wraparound of his actual big thick portion, because it kind of folds into an actual hoodie for him, if my memory serves me correctly. If not, please forgive me. But I'm just establishing shape here of what I want out of this once it's all said and done. Then he definitely has where his jacket or robe would have like an opening, and I would imagine that there would probably be buttons there, but right now I'm just going based on what they've established as far as how he looks, and then establishing the rest of where his body will be. And then one sleeve that'll come out to here, and the ruffle of his sleeve, and this is where his little hand is going to be. And then on the other side, his sleeve and His sleeve kind of comes down with an extra layer here, then to where it cuffs. I'll give another dimension of layer to his cuff. Come in with just a little bit of the details of sorts. Give him a little bit of detail there. Give him the defining line there. And then from here, I'll just establish his little itty bitty hand that he has here. He's gonna have a nail there, as well as he'll have another nail there. So now I'm gonna go in and start to really bring this to life and make this character really work. So I'm gonna go ahead and work with a 7B lead for this one. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and use a 5B. Get this to really do what I want it to do. So again, this will give you much deeper, darker capabilities. And I'm gonna start with his eyes. And then use a bit of erasing for it. And actually, let me use this eraser. That'll take care of more of it. Okay. So we've got that there. And I'm going to work on the rest of the portion of his eye and establish lines to really help bring that together a bit more. And then work on darkening a little bit more of his eyes there. And then erasing a little bit more so you have the true whites of his eyes. Then I'll do the exact same thing for the opposite. I'm going to give a little bit of a glare to this eye there. And then you know what? I'll do the same thing for this eye as well. All right. Erase it just a little bit more. Sometimes when you're having problems with the eraser really doing it, because the leads are very heavy that you're using, sometimes if you break it apart, then you've got a lot more to be able to work with, to really be able to get back to erasing certain parts that you want. So now I'm establishing those lines in his eyes, and then I'm gonna go back around it again, the whole shape of his eye. Okay, so now we've got his eyes in place now. And then we're gonna go in and do a little bit more detail to that in a second, but I just wanna kind of keep going with some of the details. So establishing where his eyelashes, I'm not his eyelashes, but his eyelids, I'm sorry about that, are, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of a shading, a very, very light shading, because again, the beauty of being able to use good drawing pencils is when you start bringing in your smudging, it'll help you really bring home what you're trying to do. And then I'm going to lessen, I'm going to go ahead and lessen the lines for under his eyes so it won't look like bags under his eyes, but just a little bit of line details. So we've got that there. Then I'm going to go ahead and go in and erase this one just a little bit, because we know where that's going to lie. We've got it all set. And lightly create the line under his eye. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for his upper eyelid on this side. Establish the line rather dark, and then go ahead and do a very, 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 very light shadowing to it there. And we'll make up for that with our actual smudging. We'll create here also very light layer of detail. Same here. And when you see me doing this a bunch of times with my hand, I'm barely allowing it to graze the paper, because we don't want those to actually be hard lines. We just want those to be kind of tones for us as we're doing this. And I'm gonna go ahead and give a little bit of depth right around here for his nose, which is also where his brow is. And then just a little bit of darkness up under his actual nose itself. Establish a good line on that side. And then I'm gonna get rid of that bridge of his nose now. And as you can see, he's starting to come together a bit better now. And I'm going to do the same thing here with very, very light coating of the cheek area. Again, he's not meant to look old because he is rather young in his appearance, even though they were saying, I guess, on the show that he's actually older. It's just, I guess that's the way that Yoda species or character, they just look young or like babies, especially at that size. All right, so now we're going to establish the mouth a little bit more and come in, give this just a little bit of shading. Just a little bit. Again, this is where controlling how heavy you are doing this is going to make all the difference in the world, because again, those are not meant to be hard lines. They're meant to really just guide you when you were doing the sketches originally. Okay, and he's got little lines here that would kind of come in, and those are going to be more defined as we go through this even more. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on that side. I already had a bit of it going. Let me line his ear up a little bit better. Okay. Alright, and then let me go ahead and finish this portion here. And I'm going to make it go a little bit with a gradation from dark to light. As you can see. Then establishing a little bit under his lip the same way. And then I'll do the same thing here, establish it a little bit dark. And then let it go from dark to light, and then let that kind of follow the trend all the way down to what would be considered his neck area, because it's going to get a lot more depth to it, because obviously the perspective is his face is higher than where the collar of his inner layer hoodie is coming through. Okay. So now we've got that established, and then I'm going to go ahead and come on in and start working on his ears a little bit more, giving at least the darkness of his definition, and then establish a little bit of a line to his ear here. Let me erase this so that doesn't all kind of merge together on us. So here we go here. Bring just a little bit more of that detail of shadowing in. And then I'm going to look to do the same thing for the other side of his ear. Alright, darken it as we did before, and then go in and start to establish a little bit of shadow depth. I'm going to hit that inner portion of where his ear flares out, so we get a little bit of shadow there, and that'll actually do a little bit of help on both sides, as you can see. And then come on in, establish a little bit more shadowing. Alright, and we can kind of do the exact same thing here, darkening, and kind of edging it, and we'll do the same exact thing on this side as well. Do a little bit of darkening here, and then come on in to form it all together. Bring that together, bring this together. And I'm going to leave this portion just a little bit bare, but I do want to establish a little bit of shadow right there, as well as do the same exact thing on this side as well. And again, we'll be able to really bring that all together once we start using our smudging. Alright, so now that we've gotten that completely set and established, then I'm going to go ahead and darken this area down here leading to the inner portion of his hood or collar. And we'll soften that a little bit later. Okay, and we'll go ahead and start to work on establishing exactly how this inner portion of his collar is going to go. So now we're going to work with literally that sketch work that we were doing before. And again, even if yours is different, it's still fine. Just really darken in what you did for that first portion of his actual collar and hoodie. And then this is where you're going to want to get into doing some darks to very, very, very light. More dark towards the bottom, then go to light. Come in here, don't make it as dark as we did in here, but dark enough that it shows how far back it goes. And then the same exact thing on this side, but we'll give it a little bit more depth by making this go practically completely dark, and then bringing in some light lead to that. So see, here you go. A little bit of shading there, a little bit of shading here as well. All right, now we're going to work a bit more. I just want to bring a little bit more depth and shape to that. Okay. So now we're going to start working on his actual hoodie collar. Alright, so now that I have established more of the shape of what his actual hoodie collar is going to be, now I'm going to go in and start to establish shading details a bit. So, and when you're doing these shading details, make sure that you're compensating from going dark to light. There should always be some type of gradation that you're looking to do with these types of drawings. So go ahead and kind of play around with that a little bit. Same thing I'm going to do for here. And let it go to light. Let it go to light here. And establish what this line does for us. Okay, so we've got that there, and then we're going to do the exact same thing for this side here. Establish where that really comes around. Here we go. All right. Then we start the fun shading. Okay. Bring that on in. I'm going to kind of establish a little bit of shadowing here. And I'll do one there too as well. Just to give him a bit more depth. Same there. And then start to give him just a little bit more detailed shadows. Letting it go from dark to light. There we go. And that all together. Okay. All right, so he's starting to really come together on that end of things. One thing I do want to do before we go any further down is start to work out the rest of his head here up top. I always bounce around when I'm drawing. I know some people, they do the grid artwork and they're like, you never do that. Well, I'm not doing grid artwork, I'm just doing some fun sketches and taking people on this journey right along with me. We're going to put some hairs in there a little bit later anyway. So anyway, now we can go ahead and continue to progress with our rest of his body. So now there's actually a secondary line that follows the opening for his robe on both sides. Okay, so we've got that there. And then we're going to go in and establish the sides of his robe and body. Yeah, I've really been on the whole Star Wars mindset of things. I'm actually at this point watching the Clone Wars cartoon and everything, and this has just really gotten in my head as far as Star Wars is concerned. So I thought it would be really fun to do that. Plus, I absolutely loved The Mandalorian. Got the opportunity to even go to the premiere of it through Verizon, so that was a lot of fun, going to the El Capitan Theater in LA and getting that opportunity to see the actors and producers and all that kind of fun stuff. So I've really been on this Mandalorian love train, if you want to say it that way. And I've always been a Star Wars fan, so this kind of all goes together. I think I'm going to do some time-lapse art for you guys coming up soon following this, and I think I'm going to do Darth Maul and Darth Vader. I love the dark side. Even though I love, things good, the darkness is cool. And I know most Star Wars fans would agree. So there we go. Establish some of the darkness there. And then going ahead and giving him a little bit more detail of shadowing, as we've always done. Alright. And much of this work again will be done with your smudging tool, but you want to give it some type of base. And the base is always going to be the mindset of making the gradients with your lead going from darker to light, kind of like how you see there, how you saw there. And same thing here. It all follows the same mindset of creating and drawing. Okay. Then doing the same thing here. Bit more gradation. All right, so next thing we'll do is go ahead and work on this little guy's sleeves. Have that there. Secondary fold of his sleeve. Go here. Start some of our gradient work. Dark to light always. Okay. Make that a little bit darker in there. A little bit more of the muscle. Bring that all together. And then same for here. And same for there. Sketching is so much fun. I really enjoy being able to do sketch work, and really and truly just getting a chance to be creative with all of you. You know, drawing as long as I've been drawing, you know, I know I'm not the best artist out there, but my style is my style and brings me peace, and I'm now sharing a piece of me with you guys. Okay. And then we'll just have one finger shown here with the nail that comes to it. Darken that, give this a little bit of detail, let that be the shadowing, and then the rest of the hand there. Just a little bit. And then we'll do the same thing on this side, establishing darker lines. Start our work of putting together a pretty good solid gradient. Okay. And then give him a little bit of shading and shadow for there. Same thing for here. And then establishing the cuff to his sleeve, secondary cuff. And then again, doing your gradient. And then darker to light, because that's an inside portion. And then coming in and establishing his hand here. He's got little chubby stubby fingers. The nail. And then his gradation of sorts. Creating just a little bit of shadowing here. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch up my leads a little bit, and I think I'll go with a 2B. 2B or not 2B? I had to say it, sorry. And I'm going to start to establish some of his hairs. And this is just for the sake of the detail portion, because I'm going to go to a heavier, softer lead to really kind of fuzz some of that a bit more. But he's got little hairs everywhere, actually. And as you can see, there is no rhyme or reason to how I'm exactly doing it other than where I want them to kind of fall. So there is no particular pattern to this, if you want to say it that way. Okay. And then I'm going to go in with a heavier yet softer lead. And this one is a 8B. Again, all of my tutorials can technically be done with a number 2 pencil, you know, on some level, but you won't get some of that soft lead affecting that you can get once you start getting into different types of leads. And someone had actually asked me what lead or brand of pencils am I using. I actually found this through Walmart, Faber-Castell. That's the kind of pencils that I use to be able to do my drawings. And I haven't used them for a very, very long time, but I do have to admit I do like them. They're really nice to be able to work with, and the leads are so soft, it's really comfortable to draw. Okay, so now that we've gotten this portion of him together, now we're going to go in and start to work with our smudging to really bring all of this to a level of being soft and not so sketched out completely. And so just working with the lines already established for his eyes. And so now it's pretty nice and soft in there. And then just so we can see a little bit of the whites of his eyes, I'm just erasing some of that. Okay. Now start to work with some of the shadowing details that we worked with. Going over his eye socket areas pretty good. His eyelids. Same for here. So it's not really bags under his eyes versus it actually being shadowing of depth. Same thing on this side. Softening the shadow under his nose right here. And there we go, smoothing his shadow down there as well. And then we'll start to work with his ears. Establishing that here. And then letting that flare out just a little bit, as you can see. And then so this will go pretty soft in there. And presenting the shadows there, and then letting it just kind of go out just a little bit. There we go. Bring that on in. Okay. And when I'm going back over the parts that are white here, I'm barely touching the paper with pressure. In the shadows, yes, because you want that depth. But the rest of that you can kind of mess around with. And then again, don't be afraid to go in and erase certain parts of it. Blow the paper like I did. Don't try to wipe it away, because all you're going to do is smudge your lead. Okay. And then start to work on the body of his robe. And I'm applying a lot of pressure in there. You might even be able to hear it. Okay. Then go lightly over the portions here. Because after all, his clothing is actually like a tan type of linen-esque texture. Or at least that's what I think it is. Okay. Make that go light again. Then go again dark to light, which is going to be not applying heavy pressure. Anything that's dark, definitely go hard, you know, go with a lot of pressure to how you're pushing down and doing this. But anything that's not supposed to be super dark, you can go super light. That's how you control how soft it's going to actually be. Okay. And then going to light again there. Darkening the part that's supposed to be darkened. And then let me go ahead and inspect just a little bit more. And go back and hit any areas I want to hit again, just with some last minute hard lines. Coming back in here just a little bit. I don't want to mess this up too much with doing too many lines. So now that I've gotten that established, soften them just a little bit. Just gives you a little bit something more to work with when it comes down to depth, details, etc. Versus them just being completely solid lines showing up out of nowhere. Hit this with a bigger one in here. Actually, use this side. Okay. Erase this portion of the eyes just one more time. You know what? Let me do this. Just as a final lasting touch. Just erasing that just a little bit more. Because I want that glare to really and truly take over his eye just a little bit more than it actually is. And then control it again with that. All right. And so as you can see, now we've got our full-fledged Baby Yoda here. I hope you guys really did enjoy this. It's really fun being able to do these projects with you guys weekly. And like I said, I've got some time-lapse stuff coming up Also, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, at the very end of this video, we'll have all of my handle information so you guys can be able to link with me on Twitter and Facebook and on Instagram. Also, it has the information for my Etsy store. Right now, people aren't able to do parties and there's social distancing, but once all that changes and everything like that, I think there's going to be an avenue for being able to present those type of designs for people who are doing customized parties that aren't just like Mickey and you know, Paw Patrol and all that stuff. There are some people that want things like butterflies and dinosaurs and Christmas parties even, I would say. But yeah, definitely all that stuff will be there. And again, make sure you join me because I've got a lot more Star Wars stuff coming. As always, let's go ahead and hit our signature at the bottom of this, plus date it so you know your body of work and when that happened. And as always, I'm going to give this a thumbs up and thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.